Something is happening with cars right now, and it is extremely important, and I don't think it's being talked about enough, and that is 90s cars are becoming classics right now in real time. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why that is happening, what that means for some of the older stuff, maybe what cars to look out for, in my opinion, but let's talk about it. Now, the first thing that I would want to ask myself is what makes a classic car? Is it chrome bars and indestructible Holdens 6-cylinder engines? Or is it, Valiant made in Australia? This is my beautiful old Valiant. I don't want to put any shade on those cars because they are amazing. They really are. And I don't want to turn those down. But the reality is, these cars, especially that Valiant, they're from the era when the Beatles were touring Australia. That was a very long time ago. And what really defines a classic car is not chrome bars, it is nostalgia. And the reality is, the people that grew up with these cars are getting on a bit, and so am I. And because I am almost 30 years old, this is the Valiant of my era. This is the car that P-platers had as their first car. Maybe my parents owned it, something like that, and I'm sure that message is echoed across my platforms. I know it is because I read all the comments and all that kind of stuff. 90s cars, particularly in Australia, the Holdens and Fords are cemented in the culture. They're not going anywhere. So even though a lot of people will look at it as a bit plastic, fantastic and all that stuff, I think that nostalgia trumps all of that. And the next part is a bit negative to talk about, but it has to be talked about, and that is that my generation is much poorer than the generation that preceded us. And that means that things are going to change a little bit. Of course, there are going to be exceptions to the rule, but for most people, getting a car like this, which is worth very little money but can still be enjoyed, is going to be the choice for a lot of them, rather than getting something as beautiful as that old HT Prem that might need a full restoration. If you're living in a share house with 4 other people, and you're probably not going to get a car anyway, but if you are, it's going to be something like this. And that leads on to the next thing, fuel injection. The absolute marvel that is fuel injection. It means that these cars are a lot less effort. You don't have to learn how to tune a carby and all that stuff, and maybe that is a negative to some. And I remember when I had my Toyota Hiace, it was carburetted. In living in the second biggest city in this state, Victoria, it was a nightmare to find a single mechanic that would work on a carburetor. It was a nightmare. It took like 6 weeks or something to find someone to book it in. Anyway, who would be wanting to be dealing with that all the time? People want stuff that is turnkey and ready to go. And these old cars, they're worth very little. They don't need full restorations. And that also leads on to the next part, is car work now is very expensive, with the median home in this country over $1 million. Everybody wants to be able to buy that, and there's no shade in that. I don't blame anyone, but if you're getting work done to your car, it costs a fortune if you're not the one doing it, where you can buy one of these cars that's already very good for little money. I interrupt the video to let you know that this video is sponsored by me. That's right. So I have just started selling a handful of little stickers. There's my little Scotty. I've got some Holden 5 litres. I'm going to be adding to these, and some shirts and jumpers. I'm just working on it right now. But every single dollar, every dollar of profit that is made from these items goes back into saving our Australian cars. So thank you guys. I've already sold so many, and I love seeing the photos. Feel free to tag me on Instagram and stuff, but otherwise, back to the video. And these cars are simple. Not only are they cheap, they are simple and easy, and they are also from the internet era. You can go and Google and find anything about this stuff, and they are still new enough that you can go on Marketplace, and even if you get some of the newer ones, you might be able to even find stuff at the wreckers. It's still sort of easy to get parts for it. It's getting a little bit hard now, I admit, but they still can happen. And the other thing is that some of these cars are pretty cool. 8 cylinders, big cam, it is a beautiful old thing. I love this car. These cars still have personality, even though a lot of people look at them as plastic. They are just modern enough that they are reliable, you don't think about stuff, but they're also basic enough that anybody can fix them. And they're just really in that sweet spot. Now, I'm not saying that new cars are better than old cars. As you can see, I'm struggling. But the difference between this, which is a 25-year-old VT Commodore, the difference between this and a modern car is much smaller than the difference between a HT and a car that's 25 years newer than it. And that means that it doesn't feel like you're driving an old car. You can very much still daily drive a car like this. I love these old things. I really do. And tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think it is just history being repeated. There was once upon a time where the HQ was just a throwaway car. There was a time when it was the EH. There was a time when it was the Model T. But as people age and unfortunately leave this planet, that gets pushed and pushed and pushed. And eventually it's going to happen to these as well. And that's not even mentioning all of the Japanese halo cars and all that kind of stuff. Some of that stuff is getting so expensive. I think some of the older generations might not realize how big the cost of living and all of that kind of stuff, all of that housing issues is affecting the car market. Again, I'm very fortunate. It's not really affecting me, you know, I'll be honest. But I'm very, very lucky. The average person with one garage space, I think the days of buying a shell and I mean, it just costs a fortune. You're not getting a $2,000 paint job anymore. I mean, the costs are just crazy. So not ownership and all of that kind of stuff, and then councils are cracking down on it and stuff, and people are living in estates pushed next to each other. I mean, it's just not the recipe that you're going to get car enthusiasts involved in. And the other thing is a lot of younger people, I admit I don't think it's as many as the media makes out, but a lot of younger people apparently are into electric cars and newer stuff, or they just are not into cars altogether. And I think that the housing does play in a bit into that, because you know, if you don't have space for it, you might never have the interest for it, and that also means that you're not learning how to do things. So that's my opinion on why 90s are becoming classics very quickly. It's also hard to admit, but 1990 was 35 years ago. It's a long time. It wasn't just yesterday, right? I know it only feels like it was yesterday, even for me, but it wasn't. It was a long time ago, and stuff is getting old. The other thing is with these cars getting old, particularly ones that were once traffic, like my stuff, a lot of these cars were scrapped when they were perfectly good running cars. So even though they were once extremely common, they are not so much anymore. And that is going to happen with the VT here. Maybe not anytime soon, but that's going to happen with the VT. It's going to happen with the VX. It's going to happen with the VY. And increasingly, those cars are disappearing off our Australian roads. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Thank you for following along and liking and subscribing. Tell me in the comments below how wrong I am, if you think I am. But I'm pretty confident in this. And speaking to some guys behind the scenes, some auctioneers and car dealers, there is some truth to this. So please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing.